Hey guys, listen up. I've got a really serious question to ask you. Do you know what time it is? Yeah, that's right. It's time to slam and jam. Welcome to the Space Jam, a new legacy. Yes, it's finally here, and you know what? We're gonna talk about it. Let's do it. Space Jam: A New Legacy is the latest film from Warner Bros. Pictures, released via Universal Pictures in Australia. It stars LeBron James, Bugs Bunny, and the rest of the Looney Tunes gang, and is directed by Malcolm D. Lee. During a trip to the Warner Bros. Studio, NBA superstar LeBron James and his son accidentally get trapped within a world that contains all of Warner Bros. Stories and characters, under the control of a malfunctioning, all-powerful force named LG Rhythm. With the help of Bugs Bunny, LeBron must win an epic basketball game against digital gamified super versions of the NBA and WNBA's biggest stars as the entire world watches. Thanks to my good friends over at Warner Bros. Pictures and Universal Pictures Australia, I got to see the movie just a little bit early so I could review it for you guys right here. Now, you know what? I feel like I'm kind of blending into the background with this black jumper right here. So let me try a trick that I learned in Toon World the last time I was there. Just bear with me for a second. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, how good is that? Oh, that's better. I'm standing out a little bit more. To be completely honest, I bought like a whole bunch of Space Jam merch to wear in this video, and then I couldn't decide what I was gonna wear. So I'm getting my money's worth, and I'm gonna wear it all. I swear it, I'm gonna wear it all. Now, of course, I am a kid of the 90s. I grew up with the original Space Jam movie. It was one of my favorites of all time. It still holds up as one of my favorite films from my childhood. It's just such a fun, terrific movie. And here I am, I'm turning 30 years old, and we're like within a week, I'm turning 30 years old, and I'm heading back to the cinemas to see Space Jam for, they're calling it a new legacy, but it's the film for the new generation, really. Now, the one thing that obviously sets Space Jam: A New Legacy apart from the original movie is the sheer scale of it all. This is a movie that is taking advantage of 25 years worth of advancement in cinematic technology. So, of course, it's going to be bigger, it's going to be grander, it's going to be more explosive, more epic than the original movie. You go back to that original movie and it feels quite quaint in comparison to this one. But that's not really a bad thing. I feel like the filmmakers have used these techniques to help them tell this story in a way that couldn't have been done in the 90s. And I swear, if this technology was around then, this is the Space Jam movie we would have got back then as well. Of course, it is grander not only in scale and scope and the locations and everything, but the sheer number of characters and stuff that are absolutely loaded into this thing is enormous as well. Of course, that said, there are heaps of cameos in here and Easter eggs. I mean, like hundreds and hundreds of cameos and Easter eggs. So much so that I've noticed there are quite a lot of people out there who are a little bit worried. Just to alleviate any kind of fears that anyone has going into this, don't worry about it. It's only a very small percentage of the film. Of course, there is lots of cameos and Easter eggs scattered throughout the movie, but most of that is relegated to the background, as we've seen in the trailers. The enormous focus of this movie really is on LeBron and the tunes, which is what we are all turning out to see. And of course, that said, the tunes are back, and they are back at full force. There is so many great throwbacks in this to the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, and it is done so beautifully that you really feel like you're getting like this really fantastic tribute. One of the huge pieces of, I guess, criticism that came out of the original movie, was a huge thing at the time, and it's something that's kind of persisted within the fandom over the years, is that the Looney Tunes in the original film never really felt like themselves. They felt like really modernized versions of the characters to appeal to younger audiences. As I was one of the younger audiences at the time, it's not something I ever really noticed, and when I look back at Space Jam, I still have fond memories, and I still think the characters are portrayed fine in that. If you're worried again going into this one that these tunes are going to be modernized again and whatever else, that is not entirely the case. Of course, the tunes are in CG animation for a decent portion of it, and it's, again, done very respectfully, and I think works really, really well. The animation here is fantastic. The CG 3D animation on the tunes is great, and I feel like as far as trying to modernize the characters, that's really as far as Space Jam 2 goes. There's a lot of really great traditional animation here as well, and these sequences, they probably take take up about half of the movie. And it's so wonderful to sit in a theater in 2021 and see this kind of animation up on the big screen again. It's so gorgeous, the designs are wonderful, the animation is so fluid and terrific, and I was relishing it. Now there's going to be another audience going into this, which is probably people my age and maybe a little bit younger, who are hoping that this movie will just live up to that first Space Jam. I mean, we all have so many nostalgic memories of that, and are really hoping that this movie does the original movie right. And again, I can tell you that it absolutely does. This is a movie that very much feels like the original film. The values, the morals, the heart from the first Space Jam are very much evident. But of course, the movie, it pushes in new directions. It tries to do a few new things. And whether that be with the CG animation, or whether that be with putting a little bit of a different spin on the story and the characters, and again, the scope and scale of the whole thing, this movie understands that it has to stand on its own, but it has these great throwbacks to the original movie while also moving in its own new direction. And I think it works just really beautifully. Now, as I said, this movie does kind of retread on kind of a lot of the plot points of the original movie, so it's fairly obvious going in what you're gonna get. It's a fairly predictable beat-by-beat kind of thing. It's very simple plot, very simple story. I have no issue with it being simple or whatever else, because at the end of the day, this is a movie made for children. One fault I do have maybe is that maybe the trailers also give away too much. I know if you have watched the trailers endlessly like I have, I mean, I've picked them apart. I usually don't pick trailers apart because they tend to give away so much stuff these days. But you guys were just loving all of the Space Jam content, and I was feeding it all to you. I wanted to feed you as much Space Jam content as I possibly could. And I feel like that maybe by just, diving into it so deeply, I felt like I kind of knew what was going to happen in the movie before I went into it. The trailers really do give away a lot. They really do. And I just kind of wish that studios stopped doing it. Please stop doing that. Please stop giving away so much in the trailers. I had so much fun with this movie. Even though the trailers had given away a lot of stuff, there was still a lot of stuff there to just keep me excited and energized throughout the whole film, discovering new things. Again, so many cameos, hundreds of cameos. Maybe it's just because I was keeping a lookout for things, particularly with the content that I'm doing at the moment where I'm picking apart Easter eggs, and maybe I was just taking extra note. I'm not too sure, but I did find that some of the cameo stuff was a little bit distracting. Most of the cameos here are very obvious. They're front and center. There's not a lot of stuff that's kind of hidden that you really have to get a magnifying glass to kind of look for. That's my one tip for you going into this. Don't spend your whole time looking for stuff, because if there's stuff to see, it's gonna be front and center for you. Is Space Jam: A New Legacy good? Absolutely. This is a fun movie. It's a blast. I had so much fun going back to a cinema to see the Looney Tunes on the big screen. For the first time in, I guess, 25 years, I don't think I saw back in action at the cinema. Here's another question. Is LeBron as good as Michael Jordan? I'll leave that to the basketball pundits, but he's great here. He is really fun here. He really gets into it. Is he a good actor? That's another question. He's okay. He does the best he can do. He's not an actor. He's a sportsman. To be honest, you go back and look at the original Space Jam, Michael Jordan's performance in that is really not that great either. So then the next question is it better than the first Space Jam? It's a tough one, because again, I grew up in the 90s. This was like my childhood, this film. That original movie will always be my Space Jam. So it's going to be hard to top something like that. When we go into, I say this all the time, but when we go into a movie like this, you can never expect it to live up to that original thing. That said, if you sat a child down today to watch the original Space Jam and watch the new one, I absolutely know what one they would pick as their favorite, or they would say is the best one. And that's the new one. They're going to love it. And you're going to love it as well as a 30-year-old or plus person, or even slightly younger person, sitting there watching Space Jam: A New Legacy. You're going to love it. And at that, I'll happily be giving Space Jam: A New Legacy a 4 out of 5. Space Jam: A New Legacy is an absolute slam dunk. loaded with Easter eggs, classic tune gags, and a punch of nostalgia. Fans of the original will have an absolute blast, while new audiences will be blown away by the modern spectacle. Built from the mold of the original film, it stays true to its style and feel while organically moving in bigger and bolder directions. I will be doing an Easter eggs and cameo breakdown video closer to the movie's release, so make sure to check back in about a week's time for that one. Until then, don't forget to check out the Space Jam videos I put together already in the lead up to the movie, and if you want to dive deep into the history of all your favourite tunes, take a look at my continuing Cartoon Evolution series. It's all linked above and at the end of the video. Thanks again to the amazing teams over at Warner Bros. Pictures Australia and Universal Pictures Australia for inviting me along to a special early screening of Space Jam: A New Legacy for the purposes of this review. Hang on a minute, I've somehow managed to mismatch my clothing throughout this video. Ugh! That's better. Space Jam: A New Legacy opens in Australian cinemas as of the 15th of July 2021, but if you want to catch it just a little bit earlier, there are some advanced screenings happening as of the 8th. If you're over in the UK and the US, the film will open in theatres as of the 16th of July, and in the US it'll also be opening on HBO Max day and date. So catch the movie absolutely any way you can, any way you feel safe. I think you're gonna have an absolute blast of a time. It's so much fun. And guys, I have to close off this video by giving this one a shot. That's all, folks. That's all, folks. That's terrible. Hey everyone, if you haven't yet, smash that big old subscribe button up on your screen to keep up to date with all my content, and hit that like button down below. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month for exclusive videos, early access content, and to get your name up on the screen. Thanks again for watching.